This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Good morning. Coming up this hour, Houston area chef Michelle Wallace and Houstonian and author Huda Fahmy. But first, a new report just out this morning offers insights into Houstonians' interests in what we don't have here. And respondents identified three things a majority are enthusiastic about someday getting: a WNBA franchise, an NHL franchise, and a major theme park. We're joined now by the co-authors of that report. Also, coincidentally, our guests for today's Political Roundup, Renee Cross, Senior Director of the Hobby School of Public Affairs at the University of Houston, and Mark Jones, Political Science Fellow at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Renee, Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Greg.
Let's begin with this report you just released this morning. These are more results from the Hobby School's most recent survey. Mark, walk us through the numbers. What did you ask about each of those three things, and what did you find out?
Well, we asked people about their level of enthusiasm for Houston getting a WNBA team, an NHL team, as well as a major theme park like a Disney World or Universal Studios. And what we found was that 60% of Houstonians are enthusiastic about Houston getting an WNBA team, 57% are enthusiastic about it getting an NHL team, and 64%, almost two-thirds, are enthusiastic about it getting a theme park. And then among those, when you ask them, okay, how often would you go to the theme park, we see that 29% say they go more than one time a year. 27% said they go at least one time a year. 27% say they go, but every year or so. And 17% said they wouldn't. But the proportion who would go at least more than one time a year, 2 or 3 times a year, if you talk to people with families with children, it goes up to 40%. So it'd be very popular among Houstonians with children.
So that's the theme park. Did you ask the same questions about the WNBA or NHL teams?
No, there we didn't ask about how many games people would go to. We just looked at the enthusiasm. And there were some differences in terms of, not so much in terms of hockey. NHL is pretty much constant across all demographics, but the WNBA is much more popular among women than men, and among African Americans than white Houstonians.
Renee, these were the three things we don't have here that a majority of Houstonians responding expressed enthusiasm for. What else did you ask about that didn't reach that threshold?
Well, we asked about professional soccer. 45% of the respondents were enthusiastic about soccer.
I'm sorry, let's clarify that. We have a professional soccer team here in the Houston Dynamo. Are you talking about women's soccer?
Yes.
Arena soccer.
Arena soccer. Got it. Okay.
And following is cricket at 29%. So those that love cricket have a ways to go in getting people on board.
Okay. Renee, what other questions did you dig into in this latest report?
We also asked about media usage in terms of where do respondents get the most of their information about what's happening in Houston. 37% by far went with TV, followed by 29% social media. Our print media in the Chronicle had 16%, and local radio at 11%.
That's a pretty low number for radio. I'm real thrilled about that. Mark, what's the margin of error on this survey?
It's about 3%. This was a pretty big survey. We had 1,400 people, so we allowed us both to look at we had low error, but also to look at different subgroups. For instance, we were able to sort of see what different demographics in terms of media usage had, and we saw that African Americans are much more likely than other Houstonians to get their news from TV. And for instance, younger people are much more likely than older people to get their news from social media, while older people are much more likely to get it from TV news.
Okay, let's dive into politics. The biggest fight in Washington at the moment seems to be over the case of a man the administration says was mistakenly sent to a Salvadoran prison. The U.S. Supreme Court ordered the Trump White House to facilitate his release, but asked a lower court judge to give deference to the administration in the conduct of foreign affairs. The White House has read that as meaning they only need to let him back in if he shows up at a port of entry, and El Salvador doesn't want to give him back. The judge now wants to determine if the White House is acting in bad faith. Is this, as some have characterized, a constitutional crisis, or as others call it, just politics?
Well, this is really more politics, although there is a constitutional crisis element to it in the sense that the administration did violate our immigration law by deporting a person without going through the proper channels and then tried to sort of justify it after the fact. But The reality is now this is a Salvadoran citizen, not a U.S. citizen. He's in El Salvador, and the Salvadoran president, Nayib Bukele, has said very clearly that he's not going to be sending him back. So there's relatively little that the administration can do other than pressure Bukele, which certainly it isn't going to do. Now, if it wanted to, I'm sure if President Trump asked President Bukele and said we really need him to be sent back, that would occur. But the reality is, this was a person who was here without documentation. An immigration court ruled that he was not eligible to stay, but added what they do in immigration court is called a temporary hold, meaning that while he should not be allowed to stay because of conditions in his home country, he shouldn't also be deported. Now, the reality is that was done back in 2019 when he had a reasonable fear of gang violence and being attacked by gangs were he to return. After all of the policies that President Bukele has implemented, that fear no longer really exists. So really what we're dealing with is not so much should he be deported back to El Salvador. That probably would have occurred if they'd gone through the right channels. But the problem is the administration didn't go through the right channels, and thus that's where we create the legal problem.
Anything you'd add to that, Renee?
I would say just the language of the order from the judges to the Trump administration. They use the word facilitate his return, and I just think that gives that a layer of ambiguity that the Trump administration is going to take advantage of.
Mark, the president Tuesday threatened to revoke Harvard University's tax-exempt status after Harvard refused to comply with a list of demands and a threat to lose some of its federal funding. The White House froze a bunch of grants and contracts to the private college. What do we need to know about this, and how might it apply to colleges and universities here?
Well, this has been an effort by the Trump administration across the board, primarily going after high-profile Ivy League schools, Columbia University, Cornell University as well, which the administration views as being too far to the left and pursuing and pushing an agenda that the Trump administration disagrees with. And they're using their power of the purse, the ability to put this pause on federal money that these universities depend on to try to change behavior. Harvard, though, is pushing back, unlike, say, Columbia, which pretty much folded. And as a result, the Trump administration will go through, and we're going to see essentially the courts tell us how far an administration can go to try to persuade or push a private university to do something that it doesn't want to do.
Renee, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, wants an investigation into DOJ's access to the National Labor Relations Board. This is after an exclusive NPR report on sensitive data being removed from the agency. Congressman Jerry Connolly says when DOJ engineers gained access to the NLRB's data, they noticed a spike in that data leaving the agency from a system that includes personal information about union members, employees who vote to join a union, witness testimony, and other data protected under federal law. Is there a line that the DOJ efforts under Elon Musk will cross that will be too far for the Republican majority, and have we reached it yet?
I don't know how this particular action hasn't been that line. I mean, we're giving up personal information, and people have a certain expectation that that is not going to be shared. I honestly can't tell you what exactly it's going to take.
Back here in Texas, State Senator Paul Bettencourt is promoting a bill to divert millions in toll revenue from Harris County to the city of Houston. Mark, why?
So the Harris County Toll Road Authority for the past few cycles, actually half decade, I think, has been running a pretty significant surplus in terms of the toll receipts. It then allocates those among the 4 county commissioner precincts that can be used for a variety of things, both transportation related in terms of roads, but also parks and things that are related to air quality. What the senator wants to do is, I think, 2 things. One, restrict the use of those funds to roads so they can no longer be used for bike paths or parks or things that are sort of amenities, and then also transfer a significant amount of that money to the city of Houston, which is facing a budget deficit.
Who's in favor and who's against this?
I think, Mayor Whitmire is very much in favor of it, and the county commissioners are by and large against it, especially the Democratic ones. At the end of the day, though, we always have to go back to the reality that cities and counties have very little power in the state of Texas, that the state legislature and the state government can effectively determine how it wants to see funds allocated. So if there's a majority in the Senate and a majority in the House that wants to see this change occur, it will occur. And one advantage that Mayor Whitmire has going for him is that he has very good relations with his former colleagues in the Texas Senate, as well as the very influential Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Renee, with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton challenging U.S. Senator John Cornyn, the race is underway to succeed Paxton as AG should he win the Senate seat. Who's already running? Who else may jump in?
Well, last week, John Bash, who is an attorney that's worked with Elon Musk and a former U.S. attorney, jumped into the race, running as a Republican. And just yesterday, State Senator Mays Middleton from the Galveston area has declared. So those are the two big ones so far. However, there's still a lot of, chess moves to go on with this particular seat.
Mark, at the Capitol, the Texas House has approved $6.5 billion for border security. What form would that take?
I think what we've had, and this was something that State Representative Terry Canales from down in the Valley, is a Democrat, sort of warned about a few cycles ago, that once we created these spending for DPS officers and for the National Guard and on border security, it would create an inertia whereby even if we really didn't need to do it from a border security perspective with the Trump administration, now we really don't. You're going to see this continued spending of funds, so $6.5 billion in a time when the state could really be using those funds for other things.
Renee, what's the latest on efforts to pass the state budget?
Oh, the state budget. Okay, the House approved their budget early, 3:30 in the morning on Friday. So that means that both House committees and Senate committees will go into conference and they will try to iron out the differences. At this point, they seem to be very close, and we're looking at around $330 million, with about $155 million that's actually discretionary. So, of course, the devil's in the details, but it looks like it's going to be a pretty smooth process.
Okay, so there's that. And then, Mark, there's the school vouchers bill.
Right.
How smooth are things there?
Well, so that legislation passed easily in the Senate. The House has a version, which is a modified version of the Senate bill, which goes to the floor today. You're likely to see a lot of fireworks in the sense of Democrats attacking it and using this session to score political points. But at the end of the day, it's extremely likely to pass. Now, the version that will pass is different than the Senate's version, so it'll go to a conference committee between the Senate and the House, assuming the Senate doesn't accept this version. And then we'll have to go through this process all over again once that conference committee report comes down. All of the arguments and a lot of the discussion will be on essentially the priorities of who would get the money first, because the reality is with only $1 billion allocated, at most you're going to be able to fund 80 to 90,000 of these education savings account in a state with more than 5 million students.
Mark Jones is a political science fellow at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Renee Cross is senior director of the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs. Mark, Renee, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
And still ahead this hour, Houston area chef Michelle Wallace and Houstonian and young adult author Huda Fahmy. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues. This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. When you support this program, you make space for deeper conversations, the kind that help you understand what's going on in Greater Houston, to better understand your neighbors and your own role in this community. We cover politics and policy, as you just heard, but also arts and culture and so much more. Help keep this service strong with your gift at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887. And joining us this hour to help encourage your support, Houston Matters producer Mincho Jacob. Hi, Mincho.
Good morning, Craig. It's great to be here this morning. And, this hour, your gift is doubled. That means $100 becomes $200, $10 a month becomes $20 a month for an entire year. And that's a really powerful way to support meaningful local conversations. You can double your impact right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate, or you can call 888-909-0887.
Every weekday, you hear voices from across Greater Houston, experts and artists, business leaders, teachers and students, public officials and activists, people with something to say. Your support makes it possible for us to bring those voices to you. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or have your gift doubled right now at 888-909-0887.
And on Houston Matters, we bring you thoughtful perspectives that help you decide what you want to know in a society, in our democracy. And in this time of uncertainty and misinformation, this kind of connection is more important than ever. And right now, your donation is doubled and, you don't have long to give. So give right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate, or you can call 888-909-0887.
We're not chasing clicks. We're not chasing headlines. We're focused on what's happening here in Greater Houston and why it matters to you. It's not a mistake that we call the show Houston Matters. You help fund this independent journalism when you give. Keep this community, your community, informed. And again, you can double your impact right now. Every contribution is being matched at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate, or you can call us at 888-909-0887.
And as was reported this morning on Morning Edition, the threat to public media, to NPR and PBS, is very real. And, and about 80% of our funding comes directly from you, from our community, not advertisers, not investors. That's how we stay accountable to the community. And when you support Houston Matters, you're helping ensure local voices continue for everyone. Give at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate, or you can call 888-909-0887.
Remember, your gift is being doubled right now, whether it's a $5 gift or a $500 gift or a $5,000 gift. Make the most of this hour and support the station that keeps you connected to our community. Double your impact right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And we invite Houstonians from all walks of life onto this show, and including folks from other parts of the region, from Fort Bend County, from Montgomery County, from Galveston. Your gift invites even more people into the conversation. If you've learned something today or on previous episodes of Houston Matter, discover something, or simply been inspired while listening, now is the time to give back. Donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate, or you can call 888-909-0887.
We realize not everybody can give, and that's okay. We don't want one person or even a few people to carry the weight. This organization, this station thrives when many people give what they can. We have tens of thousands of supporters across Greater Houston, and you could join them with your $10 a month gift right now, or whatever works for you. Whatever the amount is, remember your contribution is being doubled right now during Houston Matters. HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate. That's how you do it online, or you can call us at 888-909-0887.
And some of our listeners choose to give at a higher level, $100 or more a month, and become members of our giving societies. That kind of support helps to deepen your connection to the city. And right now, it is doubled. Just visit Houston Public Media, click on the donate button, or call us 888-909-0887.
Just imagine your mornings without Houston Public Media. No Houston Matters, no thoughtful interviews, no deep dives into the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. Show your support for this service and have your donation doubled right now at houstonpublicmedia.org or 888-909-0887. And we'll check back in with Mean Show Jacob a little later in the hour. Just ahead, how Houston area chef Michelle Wallace ended up in the world of hospitality. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues. This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Over the last month, Houston Matters producer Brenda Valdivia scoured the Bayou City for the best ingredients to make the ultimate Houston sandwich. You can check out what she and a pair of local sandwich experts came up with right now at houstonmatters.org. One of those sandwich experts is Chef Michelle Wallace, owner of the Between Sandwich Company and a former competitor and fan favorite on the TV series Top Chef. After completing her mission of bringing Greater Houston together between two slices of bread, Brenda Valdivia spoke with Wallace about how she found her way to the hospitality industry.
I've actually been in the city of Houston since 1996. I am a transplant from St. Louis, Missouri. Actually, born and raised in St. Louis, moved to Houston to attend college. I graduated from Texas Southern University. I worked in the healthcare field for a brief moment, but like many college students who were broke, I waited tables, bartended. I got into restaurant management, and my very first restaurant job was at Houston's Restaurant. And I literally just enjoy what I did there. I mean, of course, there was drama in every restaurant.
I don't think I've ever worked in any kitchen where there wasn't like two mortal enemies that for some reason work really well together.
Exactly. They're typically your strongest people in the kitchen sometimes. But yeah, I got bit by the bug of hospitality at that time, and I tried to leave it. I swear I did, and I just was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I ended up going to culinary school while I was working and cooking. I have a cousin that played in the NFL at the time.
You got to name drop who they are.
2008, 2009. My cousin, his name is Jamar Fletcher. He's a cornerback. He was actually a first-round draft pick way back when. He played for Wisconsin, but was drafted by Miami. Through his time, he ended up in Houston. And so I would cook for him, and then some of his teammates would, hey, can I get some of that? So I ended up cooking for probably the largest name was DeAndre Hopkins. So I cooked a few times for him and his family. I ended up going to culinary school around 2009. Studied in China during my studies for about 3 weeks. Came back home and just started trying to get my feet wet wherever I could. Worked under the famed chef Mark Holley. We all know and love him. I worked for Barbara McKnight. She runs a catering company, a large catering company. And I learned a lot. A lot of what I learned there, I probably use the most. Just with how in which you can transport this fine dining fare to people's homes or in places. And so it was a real technique that I think all chefs should just learn at some point. And then in that time, I met Greg Gatlin at a party we were both at. And I was like, hey, that's that barbecue dude. Like, I know who that is. I'd recognize his name. And, I went up and said hello. And then we just became friends, me, him, his wife at the time. And it was just a nice friendship that developed, and he asked me to come on board, and I'm like, okay. He was like, we could use someone with a little finesse, right? They had the barbecue on lock. They were doing great, but he wanted someone to come in, kind of have some creativity, just kind of finesse the side dishes. Sometimes the side dishes in barbecue can, they don't get all the love, right?
People have real strong opinions about how mac and cheese should be made, how coleslaw should be served. And some people, I heard somebody said hot coleslaw, and I've never seen a room revolt as quickly as that. And we're like, what do you mean hot?
I don't think it's coleslaw anymore. It's a cabbage dish. But yeah, he wanted someone, and they were doing great, right? But he just really wanted to come in and kind of start to elevate things, right? Food had started to transition and evolve, especially within that sector, barbecue. And so, I came in, and he honestly just really gave me space. And it was really there where I kind of just blossomed, right?
Now, there is a transition from being somebody who works in a kitchen to having a moment of feeling like an artist, like that moment of creativity, that moment of oh, I made something. Yeah. Do you have a dish, or do you have a day that you remember where because you're cooking so much, but all of a sudden you're elevating. Yeah. You're doing more than with what you have. So do you have a moment like that stood out to you?
Yeah, a couple years into my time at Gatlin's, we were at an event. I'm not quite sure. It might have been No Kid Hungry, something like that. And I make this dish, and I smoke a rabbit. I have a biscuit. There's a sauce. I do this whole thing to it, and I'm like, this is gonna be good. In my mind, I can envision this dish on a canvas. I can taste the flavors that I'm thinking about, and it came to life so beautifully. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I just did that. And then the other part to complete that, people received it as such. Received it and enjoyed it, and that was just it was the biggest high that I've ever been on.
It's such a temporary, fleeting moment, because it's literally, you smell it, you bite it, you chew it, and then it's gone.
But it's about the experience, right? Hopefully I'm smiling, you're smiling. It's about, if it's a memorable bite, then you can tend to remember everything about where you are, the time of day that might have been, who was with you. And so, if I do my job well when I'm serving my food, then I'm helping create this moment for whoever's enjoying it, I feel like.
A friend of mine told me he thinks the mark of a great restaurant is when your friends start talking about other great food.
Yeah. It tends to bring that out, right? It's like, and I feel this way about sandwiches. When people get so excited when they hear you're like a sandwich maker, and I'm like, oh, let me tell you about this one time. And I feel like good food does that.
You work in these elevated dishes. You have roasted rabbit, everybody's going crazy for. And then you decide to leave it all and you open a pop-up sandwich shop. What was that transition like?
A little bit scary. I've always been just a sandwich, just fanatic. Like growing up, my mother would cook probably about 5 days of the week, 5 to 6 days. On that last day, it was like, look, there's leftovers, do what you will with it. And for me, it always ended up in a sandwich, whatever it was, right? It was a piece of fried chicken and like I would make like a sandwich out of whatever was, that was left. And so when I left, the idea was just like, man, there's a hard time getting a great sandwich in the city. Some with some forward, thinking about composition of a sandwich. I love traditional sandwiches, but sometimes you want to delve in to something that is creative, right? And so I felt like I could kind of bridge the gap between things that are traditional and then give it some flair too. And so that's what Between Sandwich Co. is about. It was scary, and I feel like we're 2 years in. We've got 2 years under our belts, and I think people are really understanding what we're trying to do and what we're trying to serve. The ultimate goal is to be in a brick and mortar. During this economy right now, I'm really taking my time with trying to find the right location with all the things that check off, right, that I might dream of. And so, I'm taking my time. I definitely don't want to rush into something and not love it.
How do you handle those moments of dealing with economic uncertainty and making dishes you're not quite sure if somebody's going to love or not?
I'm grateful every single day that I'm able to wake up and do what I do. And it doesn't pass me by that no one could show up at my pop-up. And so I'm just really, really grateful. I try to lead with just simply good food, sourcing great product, building a community, being kind to that community. And then, economically, what do you do? If I need butter to bake my biscuits, I cannot buy butter. You just kind of almost have to deal with the things that you cannot change or directly affect outside of getting in the booth and voting. That's going down a whole nother thing. But in those moments, in those items that I cannot adjust or change, I just embrace it. I got to have butter. So then how do I make it work within my menu so that it economically and financially makes sense? But outside of that, I cherish the moments. I get immediate feedback. For me, when I hear someone rave about a bite or whatever, that lasts for me. And, I try to just capture those moments and say I'm on the right track so that I can keep going.
What's your advice for folks who are just starting their own pop-ups in their own restaurants?
To be patient. I got the luck of the draw. I quit my job and literally 4 or 5 months later, I was casted on one of the most popular chef shows in the world, right?
I didn't touch on that, but we can talk about it. So what's this little show you got?
I was on this little, mom and pop show called Top Chef that airs on Bravo. I was casted on season 21, and that just propelled me into a whole nother stratosphere, But for me and my pop-up, when I quit my job and decided that I'm going to do this and bet on myself with, my vision and my food, I didn't know that I would be on the show. And so it was, that groundwork that you have to have in really, really connecting with the people. The people have to know who you are. They have to enjoy you. And then you still have to serve top-notch food. And so that's my advice to those who are getting started. Don't limit your audience. Your audience will naturally flock to you, and just be as creative as you can be. And then also when you're planning a menu, it matters. I'm like, I know I'm going to have this super creative thing, and then I may balance it out with things that I know people will love. So returning items, something that's maybe quote unquote a little bit safer to enjoy, but that people still enjoy it. So I vary my menu. I vary in proteins. Like I try to be mindful of people who may not eat pork or may not eat meat. I have a vegetarian item. I try to have a small variety on a very short menu, and that's the goal. I don't have a large menu at all. I have 3 to 4 items that people can choose from, and then I give it a variety.
Also, that makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Because you're working at a pop-up. There's a limited amount of space for you, real estate, and also mental. Yeah. My mom had a taqueria, and she also had a taco truck when I was growing up. Oh, right. And at some point, we had like 14 different, we're not doing this. Yeah. But luckily, it's Mexican food, so we can kind of figure out.
Yeah, you can do different things with some of the same. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're working in a 10 by 10 tent space. And so I have I have cook lines under my tent. And I think people are so fascinated by it. And I think it's cool. People want to come back and see. I let people come back. We take pictures. They want to see it all happen. But that's part of the community building. I want you to see. And I want to tell you that I purchased this lamb from Central Texas Lamb, and their farm, their ranch is just maybe 2 hours from here. Or I got these tomatoes or collard greens from Sweetwater, and their booth is literally right down the way. So go grab some if you want more. It is something about that connection, right, that I feel like is necessary when you're serving people food.
Chef Michelle Wallace is the owner of the Between Sandwich Company and was a competitor on season 21 of the show Top Chef. She spoke with Houston Matters producer Brenda Valdivia, whose efforts to create the ultimate Houston sandwich are available now at houstonmatters.org. Still to come, Houstonian and young adult author Huda Fahmy. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues. Michelle Wallace isn't just making sandwiches. She is building something deeply Houston. Her food, her story, her voice, that's what Houston Matters is all about. We spotlight the people shaping this community in big and small ways, and we can only do it because of you. Support this kind of conversation now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. Houston Matters producer Mincho Jacobs back with us.
Good morning, Craig. And public media is under pressure. There's just no way to sugarcoat it. It is in the news right now. From budget cuts to rising costs, stations like ours are leaning more on the community than ever. Your support makes this news happen. And right now, your gift is doubled, but only for the next 20 minutes or so. That means more stories like the one you just heard and more voices from across Houston. Don't miss this chance. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate, or you can call 888-909-0887.
There is a lot of noise out there. Houston Matters offers something different, a space where Houstonians have a voice. That only happens, though, because you support it. And for this hour, your donation is doubled. Take a minute now. Give at houstonpublicmedia.org or call us at 888-909-0887.
And to be honest, we don't know what's ahead when it comes to national funding, but we do know this. Houston Public Media is stronger when our community shows up. And right now, your donation is doubled, but just for a few more minutes. So don't miss this chance. You can go to houstonpublicmedia.org. There's a donate button there, or you can call old school 888-909-0887.
To those of you who have already contributed, we thank you. This show exists because people like you step up. If you have been meaning to join in, this is your moment. $100 becomes a $200 gift, but only for a short time. Have your contribution in whatever amount doubled at houstonpublicmedia.org or 888-909-0887.
And you might want to do more. One-time gift is great, but a monthly gift makes a really big impact. You can also join our studio society with $100 a month and lead the way in the community. Whatever works for you. And for the next 18 minutes, it will go twice as far. So go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate right now or call us at 888-909-0887.
You tune into Houston Matters to hear something meaningful, something often unexpected, something Houston. It's a part of your day. Support it now. And remember, every donation is being doubled right now at houstonpublicmedia.org or 888-909-0887. Make that contribution now, and we'll check in once more with Mincho near the end of the hour. And in just a minute, another of those great conversations that you'll only hear on this program. Our Michael Haggerty chats with Houstonian and young adult author Huda Fahmy. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues. Houston author Huda Fahmy has gained acclaim for writing about what it's like growing up Muslim in America through a series of graphic novels featuring a main character loosely based on her and named, wait for it, Huda F. That has led to some fun titles for the books like Who the F Are You and Who the F Cares? That one was a 2023 finalist for a National Book Award for young readers. Her latest is called Who the F Wants to Know? In it, the character of Huda navigates the challenges of high school amid news her parents are getting divorced, something Fahmy experienced in real life. She tells Houston Matters' Michael Haggerty more about the character she shares a name with.
In the books, Huda is a teenager. In the first book, Huda F. Are You, she is an incoming freshman. She's suffering from an identity crisis. She doesn't know who she is or what she likes. She is envious of her classmates who she feels have everything figured out, even if that's just having something that they're interested in. She truly feels like she's an outsider, not because she wears a headscarf, because she's also a Muslim student, but because she just doesn't know who she is, what her interests are, or anything that a normal teenager would experience. And she kind of does figure out that part of who she is that she does love being Muslim, and she kind of embraces that, and that means kind of standing up for herself when that is challenged. And then in Huda F. Cares, we find Huda going through a road trip with her family for the summer after freshman year. And in that book, she is forced to bond with her sisters, which is a big theme. Her mom is always like, your friends come and go, but your sisters are forever. And so she's forced to have to be with her family all the time when she loves her family, but also that could be really claustrophobic and suffocating for her. And so she tries to come to terms with that, along with now she's got to be visibly Muslim in public. And so she's struggling with both these things of trying to accept they're on this road trip to Disney World where she's got to pray in public, and her parents are all right, we're stopped at this rest stop and now we're going to pray. And she's can I just pray in the car? And they're what are you ashamed of? Well, let's pray outside in front of everybody. And so she's I love being Muslim, but why do I got to do it so publicly? And she's really vulnerable. And so she kind of goes through some more issues with that throughout the book and kind of figures something else about herself. I don't want to ruin anything. And so she's just a typical teenager who's going through a lot of these, figuring out who she is and where she is, where she fits in the world and in her family and community and society.
So the new book, you address kind of a more serious topic. She finds out that her parents are getting divorced. Why did you want to address that topic or have that be the kind of crux of the book?
So they asked me, my publishers asked me, do you have any other ideas? And if they ask you, do you have any ideas? It's always yes, of course I do.
Right. You never say no to that.
Never say no.
Nope.
He's of course I have ideas. And so I really wanted to think about what was I experiencing or what did I go through, when I was a teenager, what did I struggle with? And I struggled a lot with, my parents did end up getting a divorce. They got a divorce when I was in my 20s, but it was always there. That threat of divorce was always there, and that fear of just not knowing what was going to happen to me or to my sisters was always there. And on top of that, I was struggling with depression and anxiety, and it was never addressed, or we were never really allowed to address it, especially coming from a Muslim family, from an Arab family, in a very tight-knit community where you just don't talk about that stuff, where they conflate mental health with your religiosity or something, or how close you are with God. And so it was something that I struggled with a lot, and it took years and years of therapy and self-education and just, trying to make sure that I could unlearn a lot of the traumatic and difficult things that I had gone through and kind of how to unpack all that. So I wanted to talk about that because I felt like that's probably something that a lot of young readers are experiencing. Maybe they'd never experienced it from a perspective, that I can share, that I can provide. And it's really always about being able to be that representation, that we don't get a lot of these stories. Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, we don't really get to share a lot of these stories. And there's so many of us out there that are experiencing it, especially third culture kids who are, our parents are from that country and we're from this country. And now we have to mix our cultures together. And so we're three cultures all together, and we're experiencing things in very unique, different ways. And there's so many of us out there. So even though it's really unique, it's really universal. So I really wanted to address that and make that what this book is about.
So how do you go about trying to address a very tough topic, but try to keep it engaging for young people and maybe funny where it needs to be and that sort of thing.
As sad as this might sound, but I've always used humor as a coping mechanism, as a defense mechanism to any kind of trauma that I was experiencing. And so it's become second nature as if I've ever come across anything that is particularly difficult, to just turn it around and be able to see it from a funny point of view, just to make myself laugh, to disassociate and to be able to look at it from the outside and say, oh, that poor girl, and it's me. But that's kind of what it is. And so, I have to take these tough topics and laugh, or else, I'd be crying on the floor in fetal position all the time.
So, parents getting divorced, it's a tough thing no matter what your background is. But, what things about that experience, I know for you, you were a young adult, maybe not as young as your character, but what about that experience was maybe the same as maybe what other cultures experience, and what is different? What's unique about sort of experiencing that as coming from that culture?
I think the universal aspect is that fear of not knowing what is going to happen next. And I had to ask, I spoke to a couple mental health specialists, because as I was writing the story, I felt that Huda, the character, was acting very selfishly. Like, here are her parents. As an adult seeing this, I'm like, God, she's so, why is she so self-centered? This is about her parents. I'm looking at it from the point of view of the parents, but then I have to, write it from the point of view of this.
She can't stop thinking about how it's going to affect her, I imagine.
Yeah, and so she's like...
That's kids, I guess.
Exactly.
Right?
So they're like, that's really normal. That's an incredibly normal response that young adults will look at these changes in their family, and it becomes a loss of the family unit. And that's what they're experiencing. That's why they go through this grief that they experience, and it could be that denial and that anger and that rejection, and then depression and pulling away in isolation, and all of that is very universal. I think a lot of kids that experience, and for whatever reason that their parents might be divorcing, and I never really get into why the parents are divorcing, because it doesn't matter. It's more about how they're going to experience it and how they're going to react and kind of work through it. And I think that's a really, really universal thing. The unique part about it, or from the perspective of coming from the Arab community, it's not something that's talked about a lot. You're not supposed to talk about it. And it's something that could affect future marriage prospects. Nobody wants to marry the daughter of a divorced, a family or a child of divorce. And there must be something bad about the family, and there must be something wrong with the girl or the guy. And so it was really taboo. It just became something that you just didn't talk about. So it made it even harder when you were going through this. You just felt like and everybody knew your parents were getting divorced, but you didn't talk about it. And so it just felt really, really lonely.
Tell me a little about what Huda is going through and in the story, and how she's kind of coping with this divorce in the storyline.
So in the story, she's in her junior year of high school, and she's got all those things that a student in junior year is going through, where she's taking her ACTs or college entrance exams and filling out scholarships. And she's trying to get her driver's license, and she's trying to take all these dual enrollment college classes, AP classes, and she's just stacking everything because, one, she's told that, her value is connected to her grades. If she's got good grades, she's perfect. That's what's expected of her. And two, she wants to make sure she's checking things off her list. I have a list. I need to check everything off of it. I need to make sure that I'm following what I need to follow. And that kind of pressure is I remember feeling that. And a lot of kids, feel that now. And sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's motivating, and you got a goal, you got something to work towards. And other times it's just oh my God, I feel like the weight of the world is on me. And so she's excited and motivated to go forward. And then this huge news is dropped on her. And where we used to see her really engaged with her friends, and even though she's her sisters are always barging into her room, we still see them kind of together. They start to kind of drift apart. She starts to isolate herself. She starts to really not talk to anybody. She starts to have bursts of anger at her friends, at her mom. And now she's I just got to get out of this family. Maybe if I get married before anyone, before the divorce or before anybody. By the way, she's 16 or 17, and she's girl, please. But it was very common to think about marriage at a young age, especially when you come from a very strict community where you're the only way out is if you get married kind of thing. But that's kind of what we see her go through.
Your experience, your parents divorcing, was you were a young adult, but still young. What do you wish, if it happened to you when you were younger, that someone had told you advice or helped you through this situation that maybe you're trying to convey through Huda's story?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know, because I don't think there's anything anyone could have told me at that time that would have helped at all. I felt I couldn't imagine a future where I was okay. That's how sad it was. I don't even know what I would have said to her because I don't think she would have listened. Truly, I did not have access to the internet because this was back in like 2003 or, like when I was in high school, when it was really heavy and I was going through like developmental changes and hormonal changes. And I don't know what I would have said. I didn't have any access to the internet like that. And I didn't know what to even look up. I didn't have the words that I have now to understand what was going on. For our community, a lot of times they don't want you to see, if you're going to see a therapist, it has to be like a Muslim therapist, because if it's not a Muslim therapist, then they're just going to tell you stuff to like get you out of it. It's like if you're going to get out of the religion from talking to like one person, you're probably not.
It's already tenuous then.
It's probably, exactly.
You're probably already on your way out then.
Exactly. So it's like we were not given access to any type of mental health. And so if in this culture, in this world where there's so many resources out there, so many hotlines to call, to talk to anybody. And I think I take that back. The one thing I would probably tell myself is do not isolate yourself. I think that was the number one most dangerous thing that anyone can do that would lead you down a horrible spiral, is to isolate yourself, is to keep yourself around family, keep yourself around friends. Even if you don't want to be there, just make sure you're not by yourself, because I had the worst thoughts whenever I was by myself. That's probably what I would encourage myself, to never leave myself alone with myself.
Yeah, right. So what do you enjoy about getting to bring this character to life? I know she's not you, but there's some echoes of you and some of your experiences in there. What do you enjoy about bringing Huda to readers?
I don't know. I feel like I could have her say the things I wish I could have said when I was younger. She has this sense of self-awareness that only comes really, with age. And so I kind of pour a little bit of that into her and be like, if I was that, age now, with everything that I knew, like if I could go back in time, but be at that age, but have all the knowledge that I have now, like what would I say and what would I do? And would I still fall into the same traps, and would I still do what she does? And so I imagine that she does. Just continues to make some bad choices and do the stupid things that she does, to talk to her mom in the worst way possible. I'm sorry, Mom. And she hasn't read the book yet. But it's fun to see what she would do. And it's interesting because I wrote her and I didn't like her as I was writing her. I was like, God, she's a what a terrible person.
Fill the blank.
Yeah, I feel just like, I don't like this character. I'm like, oh, she's based on me. Okay, I like that. I got some more unpacking to do probably, but yeah, she was just fun to write and be able to play with things that I didn't do or didn't say, then have her say and do, and I don't know, see how things happened and go along.
Houstonian Huda Fahmy is the author of several graphic novels for teens and young adults. Her latest is called Huda F. Wants to Know. She spoke with producer Michael Haggerty. Huda Fahmy's story is a Houston story, a personal one. That's what Houston Matters does. It brings you into these conversations with authors and artists and your neighbors who are shaping your community and your culture. You deserve that access. Your support makes it possible, and for the next 3 minutes, your donation is being doubled. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. One last time, let's check back in with Houston Matters producer Mincho Jacob.
And it's great to be with you this morning, Craig, and thank you all for listening to News 88.7 and Houston Public Media. And this is it. This is the chance of the hour. Your donation is doubled, but just for a couple more minutes, $200 becomes $400. That's 2 times the support for stories and conversations that reflect Houston. Don't wait. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call us 888-909-0887.
This program isn't just about conducting interviews. It's about conversations with real people. It's about real lives and what it means to call Houston home. From coverage of Houston City Council and county judges and cultural events and faith and family, you name it. Houston Matters meets you where you live with the issues, the ideas, the people, the places that define this region. And right now, this moment, in the final 2 minutes of today's show, your gift is being doubled. Don't miss this chance. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
And monthly giving is powerful. It's easy, it's automatic, and today it's doubled for the entire year. If you're signing up to give $10 a month, that will be $20 a month to support this station every single day. But the opportunity ends when this hour does, so give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
If you've already contributed, thank you very much. You are a part of what makes this program happen. If you haven't done so yet, in the final 90 seconds of today's show, make your support go twice as far. Your $100 gift right now becomes $200, but not for long. Take that step now at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
And if you're in a position to do more, this is that moment. A gift of $1,200 a year makes you part of our Studio Society. $5,000 and up joins our Affinity Council. These gifts go very far, and today they're doubled. Be a leader for Houston storytelling. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887.
Tomorrow, we'll talk with Houstonians supporting women who run for office regardless of party affiliation. We'll also meet a Houstonian who's helping to restore the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. They are just a few of the voices of Houston that your support brings to you and to everyone. Thank you for giving. Thank you for listening. One last moment now for you to double your gift during today's program. Don't wait. Go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. And thanks.